Hello and welcome to another episode of O-Town Outdoors. This is our fourth episode now of the 2014-2015 deer season, but it's a little bit different than the episodes we've done in the past. Jake, why don't you go ahead and tell us about it?
Yeah, so one thing that we want to try to convey to you guys is that we are average hunters, just like most of our fan base is. And you know, when you watch big network TV hunting stations like the Outdoor Channel or the Pursuit Channel, two things that you always see are big bucks on film and big bucks hitting the ground, whether it's with a bow or a gun. And as average hunters, you're not always going to get to see that 180-inch Pope and Young, Boone and Crockett whitetail. And the other reality, fact of the matter is that sometimes you're not going to be successful in recovering a deer. And it's unfortunate, but it's one of those things that just happens from time to time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we touch so much on, practicing and preparing for that one shot. But the fact of the matter is, like Jake said, once you hop up in that tree, there's so many different elements that come into play that can affect your shot and your end result. And, we really experienced that firsthand this season. We're actually going to have Corey and Brett on here later in the episode talking about that as well. They've experienced that here as well, as along with, hunters across the board. It happens to everybody, and, if it hasn't happened to you yet, it's going to happen to you at some point. So it's just something that is an unfortunate reality about the sport, but ultimately that's why it's called hunting and not killing.
Yeah, and, some of it is not necessarily that there are, your heart's racing or that there's twigs in the way or whatever. Sometimes you can put a great shot on a deer and just not find it. So without further ado, let's just jump right into the action. It is October 18th. Probably, 4:30? Just got up in the stand. We got in this morning, but it was pretty slow. The wind was just too high. It was right for the stand, but just too windy. So we're sitting up here on top of a ridge. The wind could not be better. So we're gonna settle in and see what happens. Stick with us. You're watching O-Town Outdoors. Watch him go. Watch him go down.
Well, Jake, that's gut-wrenching, man. From first glance, it looks like you put, what you thought to be a good shot on that deer, but when it comes down to it, you didn't recover him,
Nope.
And it's going to be, it's going to be a hard one to bounce back from, but I have no doubt you will. What happened?
Well, from the video you can tell, this deer is literally 6 yards away from me, and we're 20 feet up in the air. So I had to aim pretty low with my 20-yard pin, actually. And I thought that when I was going to take the shot, because of the angle, I didn't want to shoot at the heart and miss it because it'd come out right in its belly. So I aimed high and put what I thought to be the best shot I could on this deer. And he ran off and about 80 yards away stood there. And we thought, we were going to watch this deer fall over. And he flickered his tail a little bit, and 3 or 4 minutes later just walked off like nothing happened to him. And when we got down out of the tree, we reviewed the footage and saw that, you know, I did not get a whole lot of penetration with this arrow, maybe 3 or 4 inches. So we were hoping maybe an artery, maybe the near side lung, and he just bed down and expired there. But we went to the spot of impact about 6 hours later, gave him some time, and there was no blood where I shot him. We trailed him to where we saw him standing and found maybe 3 yards worth of a blood trail, and that was it. So at that point, it's almost not even worth going to try to find him because he walked off and there's no knowing where he went.
Yeah, I mean, it's no doubt these animals are tough. And, you know, if you don't put that perfect shot, sometimes you're not going to recover the deer. And that's just the fact of the matter of hunting. And like I said, that's the reason why it's called hunting after all. You're not always going to be successful every time, you know, you step into the woods and climb that tree. We had a guy, actually a good friend of ours, our taxidermist, who put a shot on a deer earlier this season, and the same thing, you know, he
Exactly
didn't recover the deer. But fortunately got another opportunity at him and capitalized on it later in the season. So fingers crossed for that. And we just, you know, we hope to have another encounter with him later in the season.
Next up, you're going to watch team member Corey Moyer have almost the exact same thing happen. Put a picture perfect, what looks like a 10-ring shot on a doe, and unfortunately, there was no recovery to be had for this deer. So let's take a look.
Well, it is December 1st here in Ohio. It is the opener of gun season. I'm in town, so I'm going to use my bow today. Can't use a gun in here, so I don't need to wear my orange or anything. But I have a lot of deer hitting this spot. I do have some corn out here. Just going for some does to fill the freezer tonight. So we'll see. Should have quite the action here tonight. So watching a ton of doors. Stick with me. Brett. Alright, well, just got down. Shot it right over here, so about to go pick up the blood sport here. Check it out. We'll go from there. Alright, well, I've been looking in here for a while, and I don't know if you can see how thick it is around me. It's like a jungle in here. I cannot find her. I cannot find any blood. I can't find any hair. I have no snow to help me. So, I'm going to have to give this one up here. There's no sense in keep trudging around in here. She might not even be in here. This is the last place I saw her. And she couldn't go more than 40 yards without bedding down, so I'm assuming I got one lung. But, as Nick would say, sometimes you're the windshield, sometimes you're the bug. So, I guess I'm the bug today. So.
All right, so what we just saw, Corey, it looks like you had a pretty dead-on shot with that deer, but what happened?
I couldn't tell you. I hit right where I aimed. I was sitting there. I had a couple of fawns on the bait pile, and And I looked over because these deer were looking over there, and I saw this nice doe coming in. So I got the camera ready, got it on my spot. I knew it was like 26, 27 yards. And so I drew back and I stopped right in that opening because there's no branches, and I get a perfect camera angle and everything. I was super happy with that. And I stopped her and I took my time and I let the arrow fly, and I was super happy with where I hit. I thought I absolutely smoked this deer. And I got down and I checked the arrow. It was just absolutely soaked. It was red from one end to the other, but I never found any drop of blood on the trail she ran. And I started tracking her about a half hour later, and I walked up on her and she picked her head up, and I knocked another arrow, but I could never get another shot. So I went back the next day, couldn't find her. Couldn't find anything. There's no snow, no blood, so it was kind of like shot in the dark. It was very confusing to me, to be honest, but just how it is. Well, that concludes this week's episode here at O-Town Outdoors. But before we go, Nick's going to tell us about this new sponsor we have with Hill-Jack Seats, and he's going to tell you a little bit about the product.
Yeah, so we got on board with Green Industries LLC earlier in November here, and hooked up with Kyle Green, who's the founder of the Hill-Jack chair. And yeah, like Corey said, we're super excited to be on board with them and using this product. They've revolutionized the sport of ground hunting with this chair. There's 4 different settings with the chair that you can adjust to different slopes and different terrain, and then there's teeth on the bottom that kind of dig into the ground, so you're set in place. And you can also obviously set it flat, just so if you're on a flat surface, you don't need to adjust to the slope, but you still have a nice comfortable seat to sit in, which will ultimately make for a more comfortable hunt and a better experience. So, like I said, we're super excited to be using this product, and that concludes this week's episode. So thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you right back here next time.